What is up, dudes and dudettes? I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and welcome to another episode of Hitting the Books, the show where I take a comic from my choosing and I review it. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about Batman, The Long Halloween. Wow, okay, so this is a book that I've been wanting to tackle on the channel for years now. And okay, so funny story. I started this channel years ago, back when I was young and dumb. That's why the URL says Extreme One Man or some shit like that. And just a quick side note: if you're gonna start a YouTube channel, don't don't pick a name like the Extreme One Man. Just the URL never changes. But regardless, I've wanted to talk about this book for a while now, mainly because I'm tied very closely to this book. It's not the first comic I've ever read. That's actually Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1, but that's a totally different episode of Hitting the Books altogether, one which I will definitely be doing in the near future, but I digress. So, while this wasn't my first comic, this was the first comic that made me the comic book fan that I am today. It made me really appreciate the medium in a way that I hadn't before. And that's really saying something because I was surrounded by comics even before I was born. Both my parents are comic book enthusiasts, so it was somewhat hereditary. So by default, I was probably gonna end up where I am regardless. But man, this book, it sparked something in me. It popped not only my comic book cherry, but my Batman cherry as well. So there's no wonder why I'm such, Batman obsessed maniac. So in any case, this is the part of the review where I break down the story for you guys, but I'm gonna do it a little differently this time because this book certainly lives up to its name, The Long Halloween, because this thing is dense. So I'm gonna break it down like this. Long Halloween takes place a year or two after the events of Batman Year 1. It continues the story of Batman fighting the mob, but this time a new element is added: supervillains. But in this book, they're referred to as simply freaks. See, the big difference between this and Year 1 is that while, yes, Batman is still young in taking on the mob, and he's still trying to break their hold on Gotham's throat, there's an important theme of escalation here as well. All throughout the book, from beginning to end, the mob is trying their hardest to maintain their place in Gotham, but the freaks are clearly starting to take over, and the mob is starting to realize that they're a dying breed, and that Gotham is no longer run by them anymore. And this makes things even scarier for them once a mysterious figure known as the Holiday Killer starts knocking guys over from all the major families. But it's not just them, it's everybody. Even the supervillains are getting a bit testy. Even to the point where, guys like the Joker starts killing mobsters just to figure out who the Holiday Killer is, and Poison Ivy's involved with some mob stuff, and even the Riddler's brought on as a consultant to aid the Falcones in finding out who the killer is. But yeah, near the tail end of this book, uh, you know, all this stuff happens, and Harvey Dent is turned into Two-Face, and it's so awesome. Mainly because they just go with the classic origin, and they don't do that a lot in comics these days. These days they try to alter the origin to reflect the times, or something like that. But no, a mobster throws acid in his face and it scars him. Now after that, this is where we get into some of the twists and turns. So the Holiday Killer is still at large, but then it's thought that Harvey Dent for a while was the Holiday Killer, but then it turns out that it was someone else, or so we think. But anyways, the supposed killer is taken to prison where he is set to be executed for the deaths of dozens of people. Granted, they're all bad people, but still people nonetheless. And meanwhile, the Roman is at his penthouse where he's just flipping his lid over being personally inconvenienced. But not too soon after, he's attacked by the Freaks, and they're all led by Harvey Dent, who's now fully transformed into Two-Face. And of course, Batman barges in to save the day, and he kicks the shit out of a lot of supervillains. But while he's distracted, Harvey grabs the Roman and he puts a gun to his head, and he delivers this great speech before he blows Carmen, the Roman Falcone's, brains out. And in the end, Harvey's arrested and he's locked in Arkham. Then the real Holiday Killer is revealed, and it's If you're a first time reader of this story, it's gonna blow your head, Jello. That's all I'm gonna say. So that was it in regards to the story. As for the art, it's fantastic. Tim Sale's the artist on this book, and you might know him best from Heroes. He did the paintings that were in Isaac's studio. He's also done Superman for All Seasons and Daredevil Yellow, and soon he's gonna be doing Captain America White. Captain America White. Seriously, who else thinks that there's something wrong with that? No, just me. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Uh, the art in this book has a real pulpy vibe to it. There's a lot of shadow and silhouette going on too, and it really adds to the classic murder mystery feel of this story. Now, granted, Batman is a little big for my taste. That's what she said. But yeah, that aside, I love the design within the context of this story. Catwoman looks great. This is easily my favorite Catwoman design of all time, and I love the design for all the supervillains except for Joker, because he's just all teeth, and they get broken quite frequently, to the point where I'm surprised that Joker Leto is the first one to have fake teeth. But yeah, that aside, the art is amazing. So even if this book doesn't strike your fancy, you can just be enamored by the visuals. Now, on to the things that stood out to me, whether they be good or bad. As always, starting off with the good. This book has so much reread value. You could read it once and probably you'll most likely need to go back and look for the clues that might have been hinting at certain character identities and foreshadowing and all that. I know I've come through this a number of times and I'm still finding new things. And as I've mentioned already, there's this theme of escalation, and it's really fascinating seeing how Gotham went from being a mob controlled city to being what it is today. And I'm clearly not the only person who liked that idea because, you know, Nolan's The Dark Knight is basically a loose adaptation of Long Halloween. And with that being said, I gotta mention Two Face. This is easily the best Two Face story ever told. It's so great. But with all that good, well, actually, there's not too much bad here. It's just stuff that bugs me. Like, alright, this is a sequel to Batman Year One, right? So if that's the case, why is Catwoman white? And also, why does Harvey Dent act so differently? I mean, in the case of Harvey, I don't know why in Year One he's clearly on Batman's side, and he even hid Batman from Gordon in that scene in Year One where Gordon is still trying to arrest Batman. But now he's very uncomfortable around him, like they're meeting for the first time. But even so, the book contradicts itself in that regard because they say they've met each other before, so I'm not sure what happened between those two, but it clearly wasn't good, and it clearly was not explained in this book. But yeah, so in the end, this is a book that I highly recommend. Go pick it up if you haven't already. And I'm sure that if you watch the channel, you'll realize that I didn't spoil the story like I usually do, and that's because I want people to just get surprised by all the crazy plot twists in this story, just like I was when I first read it. And yeah, guys, that concludes my episode. This episode of Hitting the Books. Anyway, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel. If you're liking this content, all you gotta do is subscribe. I am the Mystical Green Beanie. And as always, until next time, adios, nachos. Adios.